Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of the Concho Sports Show. I'm Shea Harris, coming to you from Concho Sports Network headquarters in San Angelo, the birthplace of Major League Baseball Hall of Famer Greg Maddux. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Vince Salazar. How you doing, man?
Shea, great to be back again, man. You know, it's been another good week, kind of long a little bit, just, you know, more or less, not really a whole lot to do, but, you know, happy to be back with us here.
All right, and before we get started, real quick, I just wanted to thank Wingstop on Knickerbocker Road in San Angelo for being our sponsor of the show. You can order some wings for pickup or delivery, 325-227-6777, wingstop.com, or on the Wingstop app. Also want to invite you to follow us on social media at Concho Sports. We'd really appreciate that. It would help us out, and it will let you be up to date on all of our new content and videos and shows just like this one. All right, and now it's time to lead things off with Vince. All right, what do you have for us this week,
man? All righty, man. Well, you know, this week, just a few things kind of going on a little bit. We had some NBA teams finally open their practice facilities back up. Some teams are still not fully in swing with it yet due to the coronavirus. So be interesting to see how that kind of goes on. We're still unaware of when that season's going to come back up. A few weeks to go before we have NASCAR finally try to get going again. I believe we also will have the smaller stock cars getting ready to go. They're going to try to give it a shot actually over here in Texas for their first run. So they'll be kind of interesting to see. We currently actually have Korean baseball going on. They've kind of been fun to watch right now since we still currently are waiting to see when the major leagues here in the States will get going. One of the interesting stories I kind of saw come out earlier, though, this week has kind of been rumored out of the Minnesota area, was that if, depending on the NCAA's decision, they stated that if campuses do not open up, do not expect fall sports to be back. With that, there's a threat that some of the Power 5 conferences might try to drop out of the NCAA and form their own type of organization. And boy, would that be a major shift in college sports from the overall if that does occur. But right now, still just kind of rumors going on. But boy, I had not expected a story like that. Also had some big news out of Wall, Texas. Tate Williams will be continuing his career over here in the Central Texas area at Waco as he's committed from going from the green and white to the green and gold and becoming a Baylor Bear. So definitely a big pickup for Baylor University, picking up a fantastic Wall Hawk to add. But, you know, that's kind of been our story this week. So hopefully we'll have some more good stuff coming up as the week continues on here.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of big news, especially with the college football stuff. Be interesting to see if anything actually comes of that. That would definitely have some huge ramifications for college sports, college football. And one more little piece of news just came out in high school football. The El Dorado Eagles found their new head coach, and John Long, who comes from Waco Midway, where he was the offensive line coach. And before that, he was actually the offensive line coach at San Angelo Central under Brent Davis. So he's coming back to the Concho Valley. And I mean, he's a really good coach, a good hire, really a great decision by El Dorado to get him to lead the program.
Yeah, big pickup, of course, coaching with Central and Midway, both 6A schools. So definitely going to be a big advantage for El Dorado. So it should be fun to see, depending on what kind of happens going on into the fall.
All right, man, let's go ahead and bring on our guest. He is a sports writer for the San Angelo Standard-Times. He's the beat writer he keeps really busy. He's the beat writer for the Central Bobcats, Lakeview Chiefs, and Angelo State Rams. Our friend, Mr. Charles Bryce. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
Charles,
guys.
how you doing?
Appreciate y'all having me on here.
Yeah, happy to have you on.
Great to have you.
So first off, just want to ask you, how are you and your family doing with the pandemic and all the social distancing stuff? And how has everything changed, with trying to work with all this going on?
Right. Yeah. Well, like with a lot of folks, it's tough not to kind of be on each other's toes, so to speak. My wife and I both are working here from home, and like a lot of folks out there, and so there's been some times when we probably got on each other's nerves, but it hasn't been that bad. We've learned to adjust pretty well. And one thing that's kind of really helped keep our mind off things during these crazy times. We have a little puppy that we got back around Christmas, and she's 6 months old now. And so, she keeps us busy. We don't have any young ones around here, but except for her. But and our other dog, he's about 12 years old, about 11 times her size, but they really love each other. And so it's been great to have her here. But during this deal, it really it really makes you appreciate things that you take for granted that, we as Americans often do, that, seems like we've had things, a lot of us, have had things pretty easy compared to other parts of the world. But obviously this is a global pandemic. And so we've learned to appreciate things that we, like I said, in the past often took for granted.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned your dogs, because I remember seeing just a couple of days ago, I think you posted on Facebook and Twitter a little video of both of your dogs. I think you said they're Bella and Barney. And I guess the little one is the new puppy you have.
Yes, that's Bella. She's something else. Keeps us busy. She's not potty trained yet, so we're going through a lot of paper towels.
Yeah.
Thank goodness we can get something out there now.
I remember those days. Yeah, I think all three of us are dog people. Vince, I know I've seen you post dachshund videos and things that.
Yeah, definitely a dog person.
Mm-hmm. And I have a beagle named Sherlock Bones. Doggy detective. He's always out on the hunt trying to find stuff with his nose. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and actually, real quick, I wanted to congratulate you. We've got a picture here you won honorable mention status for the Texas Associated Press Managing Editors Awards for sports photography. It was a really good picture here at an ASU game of what player was that?
That's Lloyd Bam Howard.
Bam
right
Howard.
There.
Yeah.
He didn't score on that, but he almost did. He came within inches of scoring. But that was a pleasant surprise. The first time I've ever entered a photo in that contest. So it was really a nice honor. And I really have been enjoying the photographic end of things these last 3 years, really, probably since our staff is so much smaller now. We only have one official photographer. So Amy McDaniel and myself, we take a ton of sports photos to help out. And so it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that must be pretty cool, because that's not your forte, what you've always done. But now as the staff has gotten smaller, you have to do some of that too, taking photos at the games that you're covering.
Right. You got to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
And they call us multimedia journalists. So we do video stuff. Amy's she's the master of our video stuff, does some fabulous things. She's won some awards for that. And myself, I really just love the still photos a whole lot. Nothing against the video stuff, but I really just enjoy, getting out and shooting the still photos for anything I can.
Yeah, and actually, I did see the list of award winners this year, and I think pretty much every year you guys at the Standard-Times win several awards, and there were several this year. Some from the one from you, Amy, and Paul Harris, the sports editor. Also, all three of you guys got to get recognized this year.
Right. Yeah, we've been blessed. So it was very nice of them to honor us with those awards. So.
And of course, one of the big things I wanted to talk about was all the all-decade stuff that y'all have been putting out in the Standard-Times over the last month or two. All-decade teams for Central, Lakeview, and the small schools, and the games of the decade, ranking that kind of stuff, and team MVPs, things like that. So let's start with Central. You had the top 10 games. You had the Central team of the decade for football, and so talk about that. What were some of the games that stood out for you? I know, obviously, the Allen game is one that stands out for everybody and was ranked the top game of the decade. But what do you remember about that game and some of the other games that stand out for you?
Oh, wow, the Central Allen game, that 2016 regional semifinal. I mean, both teams came in 12-0. Central was ranked number 6 in the state, and Allen was ranked number 1 at the time, number 7 in the country. I don't think there's ever been a bigger crowd at San Angelo Stadium. We never got an official head count, but I think it officially holds 17,500, if I remember correctly. And it was standing room only, and the guess is that there was probably over 20,000 people there. I mean, the lines were just ridiculous, leading up to the ticket lines, and yeah, it was an incredible game. Central really was doing well, and they lost 34-21. They were down 31-21 at the half, I believe it was. Yes, and then their starting quarterback got a concussion right there before the half ended, and wasn't able to return, obviously. So that really hurt their chances. In addition to the rain really started to come down hard, and he was a sophomore at the time, but that was really the coming out party for Maverick McIver. He had played slot receiver all season. Had moved in from a 6-man school, Fort Davis, and he was thrown into. That was a very tough position for him to be thrown into. I thought he did well considering what he was up against and all, but he hadn't had many reps at quarterback that season, so it was a very difficult situation. But a lot of people forget the game was. A lot of people naturally will remember it for the catch. The Vincent to Adam West, 6'8" receiver for the Bobcats. One-handed catch that videos of it on Twitter just went. We're all over the place, man. Went viral, and that game, that score right there, really showed Allen that Central was right there with them, and then Vincent got hurt, like I said, and it was tough, for them the rest of the way, but they did hold them to just a field goal in the second half. It was an outstanding job by the Central defense, by Brock Martin and Garrick Scott in particular. So yeah, that's a game that anyone was at will never forget that one. Some of the other ones, during that time, over the last 10 years, give me a second here, looking through my notes, Central and Permian in 2015, the Bobcats, they won a third straight district title with a 27-20 upset over, number 7 Permian at the time in the regular season finale. So that was a big game. We had that one at number 2, and the third one we had was Central Arlington Bowie, a by-district playoff game in 2014. The Bobcats rallied from 21 points down in the fourth quarter to win that one 55-52. So that was crazy. Definitely a memorable game. And another, one of the top ones was Central versus Amarillo High in week 8 of 2011. The Bobcats hit the road in that one, and they trailed 27-14 in the third quarter before scoring twice, including a fake punt, a touchdown bomb from Logan Sawyer to Corey Lopez to pull off a 28-27 nail biter. That's just the top 4 right there, and I'll let the readers kind of check out the other games, and not to give too much away for the other ones in there if they haven't already read the story on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody should definitely check out all those articles because there's several of them now, and they go into detail on all of these games and all of these players for the all-decade teams. And you mentioned, the one that stands out to me, I almost want to put it number 1 just because it was such an incredible comeback and ending, was that Arlington Bowie game in 2014 where they were down by, I think they might have been down more than 21 points at one point, but I know they were down by 21 points at the end of each of the quarters, the first 3 quarters. And I just remember that was the most unlikely comeback I'd ever seen in person, because, you go to games or you watch a game on TV and you're like, okay, you figure out all the ways that it's possible to come back, mathematically they can still come back and there's still time, but you never expect everything to fall into place that has to happen to actually happen. And that's the one game I remember going to in person where that actually happened. Everything came together. And then, when Braden Hucks ran the ball in to win it in double overtime, it was just kind of like, people were looking at each other, they couldn't believe that it all actually came together and it actually happened. So that's one. Obviously, those other two games you mentioned, that Permian game and the Allen game, were incredible games, and I think probably deserve to be top two just because of, everything surrounding those games. But that Bowie game is one that's always going to stick in my mind of the games that I've been to for Central.
Right, right. I wasn't at that game. I actually took over the Central beat kind of midstream in 2015 when Quentin Martinez left for a job in Corpus. So unfortunately, I didn't see that game, or the 2011 game against Perman. If I'm remembering the year correctly there, like I was talking about a minute ago, but yeah, I heard a lot about that comeback though, and that just goes back to the old saying, it ain't over till it's over. So they really proved it that in that 2014 game against Bowie, like you're talking about.
Absolutely. So, who are some of the players that you remember from the Central All-Decade team that stand out to you since you've been covering the last 4 or 5 years or so?
Oh, they've been blessed with so many great quarterbacks in the Brent Davis era, as everybody knows. It was very difficult, to be honest, to choose our MVP of the decade. We ended up going with Cal Vincent. He was our 2016. He was a co-MVP that year. He had 42 touchdowns, I believe, passing touchdowns, I should say. I believe he ran for like 8 more, and only had 2 or 3 interceptions all year. So he was just the model of, consistency that season, and he could burn you with his feet or with his arm. Of course, I talked about Adam West earlier. They've had a lot of great receivers over the years. Adam West, who's now, at Harvard. Some of the other ones, running back wise, they had a record in 2016. Davin Manning, who's now at Angelo State, was a record-setting running back for Central. And, a lot of times they would have they'd have a great quarterback and a great receiving core, but they didn't always have a really strong running back in there. But Manning was the best, probably the best they've ever had there. Obviously, was setting the kind of records that he did, and oh man, so many other great players. Defensively, a guy like Garrick Scott, he was a 4-year player at linebacker for him. It's very difficult to even make the varsity lineup as a freshman in the Davis era, but Garrick Scott was one of the rare ones to do that. And he played on 4 straight district championship teams. Brock Martin from the 2016 team at cornerback was a great player. Getting back to the receiving core, of course, falling for names right now. This past season, they had Tanner Dabbert, who's going to, be really hard to replace with what he did, and give me a second here. Some of the other ones, hang on a second, guys. Henry Teeter at receiver was a great one for him. He was also on that 2016 team. Those are just a few off the top of my head, and they've had quarterback-wise, in addition to, of course, Maverick McIver. We know what he did before he got hurt as a senior. It's just too bad that we weren't able to see what he could do his senior year after coming off an incredible junior season. If he would have stayed healthy, he would have likely broken pretty much all the records at Central. But as we know, he got hurt, and I think the second game of the season out there at Del Rio, and that's when Malachi Brown, the current starter, took over as a tenderfoot sophomore. And but other great quarterbacks during this recently Brennan Wooten, originally signed with TCU, was an outstanding quarterback. Uh, going back a little further, Mickey Scott, the son of Travis Scott, the Angelo State softball coach, and Gehrig's older brother. He was a great quarterback. I wasn't covering him during that time, but getting back to McIver, I mean, he as great players as Central has had in the Davis era. They never had a player that had as many D1 top tier programs that were clamoring for his services, and obviously he's at Texas Tech now, and hopefully has a good chance being the starting quarterback for the Red Raiders if things work out for him this fall.
Yeah, it sounds like he's definitely going to be in the mix this fall, so hopefully he can go and seize that opportunity and take the job. That'd be awesome.
Right, he got hurt last year, so otherwise, right. I mean, he might have seen quite a bit of action last year. I can't say for sure on that, but hopefully he's healthy and ready to go this fall, and can do some big things for him.
Yeah, you listed off a lot of great players there, and this past decade has probably been the best single decade of football for Central. So obviously tons of great players and memorable moments and great plays.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely has. When Davis took over the program in 2009, it was really kind of, I hate to say down in the dumps, but that's kind of where they were at. And so he rebuilt the program. By the second year in 2010, they made the playoffs, and they made the playoffs every year since. These last two seasons hadn't worked out well for them, losing lopsided games in by district both years. But, just punching their ticket to the playoffs in District 3-6A against teams like Euless Trinity and Fort Worth Haltom. Last season they had basically a win or go home game at Haltom, which was the defending district champion at the time. They took care of business with Tanner Dabbert having a sensational game and kind of leading the way in that one. So yes, I don't think they've ever had a decade as successful as they have this past 10 years.
And just thinking ahead now for Central, while we're on the subject of the Bobcats, so what are you seeing? What are your thoughts on next season for them? As they move back into 2-6A where they belong with the Odessa, Midland, Abilene schools, and also Friendship.
Right. Well, the Bobcats were really young this past season, so they're not losing a lot of seniors to graduation. They got a lot of underclassmen who got their feet wet, and they've got some really outstanding kids coming up from the JV and freshman team this season that are going to make names for themselves. And, they're so excited to be back in this district that, they used to refer to, and a lot of people still do, as the Little Southwest Conference for obvious reasons. And so, it just didn't make much sense for them to be in that Metroplex heavy district like they were these past 2 years. But at the same time, that toughened them up. I mean, playing teams like Trinity, getting back, it's almost like, size-wise, almost like playing a college team,
Yeah.
How big those guys are. And so, it's going to be fun to see. I mean, I expect the Bobcats to be right in there in the thick of things, contending for that District 2-6A championship with Perman and Midland Lee. And, Abilene High will probably be pretty decent too, and some of the others. So really excited to see how the Bobcats do this fall.
Hey, Charles, I got a quick question for you. What are you looking at Lakeview-wise? How do you look at the Chiefs and their all-decade team?
Oh, man, they had some great players over the years. And, starting off with the MVP, Eli Peterson, class of, that 2013, he's a class of 2014, but in 2013, he just had an incredible, it's hard to believe it's been that long ago, but he had an incredible season. He was only 5'7", 165-pounder, but he was a record-setting back for the Chiefs with 2,350 yards and and a total of 23 touchdowns. He had a 325-yard game against Greenwood, and which set a school record. And then he came back with 431 yards on the ground against Hereford in the regular season finale, and they needed that. They needed to win that game in order to make the playoffs, which they did in large part to what Peterson was able to do. They had a really good offensive line at the time, and so they were a lot of fun to watch that year. And some of the other players, Henry Nikias, from the 2017 season, he ended up. He's no longer on the roster at Angelo State, but he ended up signing with ASU. He threw for in 2017. He threw for 2,200 yards and 21 TDs, and was an all-district utility selection player in 4-5A. He was also, you don't see this very often, but he was not only was he a good quarterback, but he was also a great linebacker. So just shows what a tough guy he was. Some of the other players over the last decade, another quarterback, Nick Martinez. He helped them win a playoff game in 2014. In fact, that game against Canyon, we picked that as the game of the decade for the Chiefs in that one. Some running backs over the last decade. Donald Bowman in 2015, he had over 1,000 yards. In 2014, Anthony Chapa. He was only 5'4", 155 pounds, but as a senior, he ran for over 1,000 yards, had 10 touchdowns, and so that guy was as tough as they come. Another good running back was Alex Ayala from 2017 season. Let's see, let me look through my notes here a little bit. Receiving wise, Ahmad Daniels was on the 2018 team. That was his senior season. He did some big things for the Chiefs. Was known more as a basketball player, but in 2018 he had 678 yards rushing and 8 TDs. And Jesse Scott, before he transferred to Central as a junior at Lakeview in 2016, he had 526 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns in an offense that wasn't, primarily about throwing the ball at the time or anything. You can't talk about the Lakeview team without talking about, some, hang on a second, some of the defensive guys like Taylor House, 2014 team, and he was a linebacker. He wasn't a big guy either. Like a lot of times the Chiefs were, they had to plug guys in that didn't have the size that you would typically have at a given position, but they had a lot of heart and made up for it that way, you might say. And Johnny Espinosa, I mean, he definitely got some consideration as being the player of the decade. In 2018, he led the whole state with 11 interceptions in the regular season alone. And, of course, this past season, teams knew what he had done the previous season, so they tended not to throw his direction as much. But, he still managed to have 3 interceptions. And really he made a bigger impact in 2019, I should say, as a receiver. I mean, he was big time for him as a sure-handed receiver, 45 receptions for 1,083 yards and 16 TDs. We were really disappointed that he didn't get, all state honors for what he did on the offensive side.
Yeah, Johnny Espinosa definitely was a name I heard a lot on Friday nights on the radio. And one thing we saw from Lakeview is we saw quite a really good amount of improvement once they made that move from the UIL. So, from what we saw last season going forward, what's kind of your prediction for the Chiefs for the 2020 season if that does, go as planned?
Right. Yeah. They were just in over their heads, really playing against a 5A competition when they were in the 4-5A district. But now at the 4A level, they're more on a level playing field, so to speak, with these teams. I think they're going to close the gap with some of those, teams that are the top teams in the district, this coming season. It won't be easy to replace a guy like Johnny Espinosa, who I was just talking about, who did so many great things on both sides of the ball. You'd like to, a school at the 4A, 5A, or 6A level, you'd like to have your guys not have to play both sides of the ball, but Lakeview doesn't always have the depth to be able to, or typically doesn't, I should say, have the depth to be able to do that. So they had to use their best athletes on both sides of the ball as much as possible. Yeah, I think they could, I wouldn't be surprised to see them, finish second or third in the district and hopefully, win a by-district game and see what they can do after that.
Yeah, there'll definitely be a lot of fun to see how they're going to do this season. I want to also ask a little bit about some of the smaller schools here in the Concho Valley. We saw the Wall Hawks, of course, have another phenomenal year. They've kind of been doing that overall over the entire decade. What do you see from the Hawks going forward here coming into 2020?
It'll be interesting to see because, their quarterback has graduated and some other good seniors that they're losing. So I just think the program is so well established, just kind of like at Central or Mason, some of these teams that they don't ever really rebuild, they just kind of reload. But they've definitely got some big shoes to fill to see, if they can, they've set the bar so high over there at Wall, but I don't see them having much of a drop off, really. I mean, Houston Guy always and his staff, they always have those guys ready, and I think it'll be another great season for the Wall Hawks, and they're going to be, they got a lot of injuries last year that really hurt them there. Obviously, the quarterback got hurt and wasn't able to, finish the season for them, and I think they're poised for some big things again, but it's going to be, it's going to be hard to replace some of those seniors, but hopefully they have some guys from the JV level that can plug in there and do just fine.
Yeah, Hawks are always excited to watch.
Yeah, I was going to say Drew Morrison, having the linebacker having to take over at quarterback last year. Now I believe, I'm thinking correctly, he was a junior, so it'll be interesting to see if he takes over at quarterback or if he stays at linebacker or what happens there.
Yeah, that quarterback situation is going to be fun to see for the Hawks. Of course, on the last couple of shows, we've been talking a little bit about a lot of the coaching changes going on out at Miles and, of course, at El Dorado. So looking at these two schools, who, of course, will probably square off again this season, what are you seeing from those two teams, and how are they going to have to adapt with, two brand new head coaches in their area?
Right. Yeah, there's always a little bit of a learning curve naturally when you have a new coach come in and maybe a little bit different philosophy on things and all. I think, at El Dorado, I think John Long with, his experience, offensive line coach at last 3 years at Waco Midway, they were in a state championship game at the 6A level during his tenure there. And he was, before that, he was offensive line coach for 3 years at Central. And I think he's going to be a great, this is pending approval by the school board tonight, actually, but it looks like it's pretty much a done deal. So I think he's just going to, pick up where they left off, so to speak, last year. And Miles, I think there's going to be a lot of excitement with a new coach taking over there, and Coach Wilhelm. He's done some really good things in his career, and so I think the Miles will be definitely one of the top smaller school teams in the area probably this season.
Yeah, definitely it's going to be a really exciting area there. Going back to Shea a little bit, I think he had a few other questions he wanted to ask in regards to the Bobcats. I'll let him go ahead and ask those on over.
Actually, yeah, let's go ahead and shift gears now, staying with the Bobcats, but going to some other sports like, what are your thoughts? Because you cover all the sports there at Central, so you've seen a lot of volleyball. Talk about Connie Bozarth. She recently retired as the Lady Cats volleyball coach, and she had a legendary career there. So just talk about her and, what you think about her legacy and, the impact that she had there.
Oh, wow. The impact she had was just incredible. I mean, she was 34 years in coaching overall. She's in the Angelo State Hall of Honor, was an outstanding player for the Ram Bells back in the day. And Connie and I are about the same age, so I've known about her for many years. And, she started off at Seguin, just 1 year there. Then she was at Bront, then Lakeview, and then Central, where she spent 18 years at Central and won over 300 games during that time. And, in her career overall, she's one of the few coaches in the state that has over 800 wins on her resume. So, and you'll never meet a coach who cared more about her players than Coach Bozarth. I mean, she thought of them, you hear this all the time, we treat them like children, or they feel like, they're my kids. Well, she really did feel that way about, and about all of her players and numerous, countless players she was able to send to the next level, including maybe most recently Trinity Southall, who's at Southern Methodist now, so it's going to be weird not seeing Coach Bozarth on campus, but I'm guessing she'll be at a lot of the games, watching in the stands, But yeah, she just made an indelible mark on the program, and hate to see her wind things up, but at the same time, I'm happy for her. Her retirement is well deserved, and she's going to get to kick back and do some traveling and just enjoy life a little bit. But the new coach, Julie Williams, that's taken over for her, she has a really strong resume herself, 17-year veteran in coaching. She's led teams to the 5A regional semifinals regional finals and quarterfinals, and was an All-American player herself at Lubbock Christian. I haven't gotten to meet her yet, but it sounds like, she's got really good credentials. So looks like the Lady Cats are in good hands. It's just going to be kind of weird not seeing Bozarth around there, because she's been such a fixture at Central and in West Texas in general for so long. Kind of like when Central swim coach David Haig retired after 41 years, before this past season, between Haig and Bozarth. I mean, those two had been around there many, many decades, combined.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, to see, because she's been there so long, Coach Bozarth. But it does sound like they got another experienced coach who's had a lot of success to take over. So, hopefully they don't miss a beat, because they've had a lot of really good teams for a long time now at playing volleyball there at Central.
Yes, and if I remember correctly, the Lady Cats failed to make the playoffs, I believe, just one time in Bozarth's career at Central. So when she took over that program, when they first won a playoff game, it was the first playoff win in like 20 years, something like that. So very similar rebuilding job that she did compared to what Davis has done in football there at Central.
Yeah, I was going to make that comparison, because it sticks out when you start to talk about both programs. Also, wanted to ask you about Lady Cats gymnastics, which they're pretty. It's an unbelievable program. I mean, it'd be hard to find another program in the state in any sport that has the kind of success that they do year after year after year. And I know, they didn't get to finish their season. They didn't get to defend their title, but they did finish ranked number 1. And then the boys also are always really good, and I think they finished ranked number 9th in the state. So talk about both of those programs, what you saw from them, and what you see from them going ahead towards next year.
Right. Yeah. You got to really feel for, especially for the Lady Cats, because I mean, they were undefeated on the season. You know, they were really looked like they had a strong chance if they would have stayed healthy, which they were healthier toward the end of the season than they were, you know, earlier during the year. And where was I going with that? You know, they were shooting for that 10th state title, and Coach Walker, you know, has led them to all 9 of them dating back to 1989. He said he would have gone into this state meet if they would have had it more confident than he ever would have been, you know, in the past, which is really saying something, you know. It's really sad for the 5 seniors that they lost off that team, including one of their top all-arounders, Mary Grace Thompson. But they've got, you know, so many great ones coming back that are, you know, they're built for success for years to come. They never seem to have a drop off in the program there. You know, they've got some of their best all-arounders coming back, like Madison Vogel and Jaden Sawyer. So, and not being able to compete and finish things up this spring, it's going to give them even more of a burning desire to do big things in 2021. So I would pencil them in as the state champion favorite right now at this point if they stay healthy next season. So, and on the boys' side, the boys were hurt injury-wise. They were pretty young this year, but Coach Kern Errett, he's always done a solid job there too. It's hard to, you know, mirror the kind of success that the Lady Cats have had over the years. One advantage that they have on the girls' side is that the Concho Valley gymnastics program is like a feeder program for the Central girls. They don't have the equivalence of that on the boys' side, but Coach Errett works with younger boys, you know, and tries to do the best he can as far as developing young talent coming in. But you know, for the Lady Cats, I mean, they've always got some, you know, it's not strange to see them have, you know, 3 or 4 freshmen come in and be, you know, among their top gymnasts, because it's been like that a lot over the years. So both great programs, and like you said, I mean, year in and year out, especially the Lady Cats, always one of the most successful teams in San Angelo and the area, and the boys are always right there in the top 10 in the state also.
Yeah, with the Lady Cats, you know, one of the obviously they've won a lot of state championships. One of the stats that gets thrown out, I don't remember the exact number right now off the top of my head. I don't have it in front of me, but just how many regional titles they've won in a row. I think it's, I don't know how many it is, but it's a ton. And that always kind of blows me away that they can be that dominant in their region every year.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I forget too. It's a whole bunch of them. I wish I had that here in front of me with my notes, but yeah, they've dominated district and regional meets for so long that it's almost a guarantee that they're gonna win it. You know, whereas on the boys' side, you know, the big challenge for Central has been typically usually Odessa Perman, but this past season the Odessa High boys really stepped up, and so they were really strong, and so. Central is always on the boys' side is always one of the top teams in district and regionals, but it's been hard to win those championships because of those teams I was just talking about. But I think the Bobcats will be more seasoned this coming year if they can stay healthy. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to see them finish top 6 in the state.
And a programming note real quick for everybody watching on the subject of Lady Cats gymnastics. We are actually next week, our guests are going to be Coach Tony Walker, and he's going to bring on some of his players. So we're going to get to talk to them next week on Concho Sports Show about Lady Cats gymnastics. And I'm really pumped about that to get the inside scoop on their success and how they do it. Cause I've always been kind of fascinated by their program and how good they are. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to be checking that one out. They'll give you some good stuff for sure.
Yes, sir.
So,
All right, yeah. So I'll move on a little bit here. I love high school athletics, but of course, me and you probably share the same passion for collegiate sports, none other than Angelo State University here in the Concho Valley. So, of course, one thing I really want to ask you for sure, we saw Ram baseball under Kevin Brooks. Currently, they were number one in the country. It looked like they were going to make another run for not just the South Central Regional, but probably another World Series berth. Of course, sadly, with everything that happened, that kind of put an end to the dream. Give me a little bit of a take of what you saw this season from Ram baseball.
Of course, some of their guys that didn't get drafted, we were really surprised, and so the coaching staff was too. Season before this last one, that they had Nick Novak, and the player of the year, the D2 level, the year before. Trying to think of his name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Josh Elvire. Thank you. There you
Yeah,
go.
there you
Sometimes my old brain doesn't work quick enough, but and they had really good hitting and good pitching, and they were really poised to make a run at. They've never won a national championship in baseball, but I think they would have had a great chance to do that if things wouldn't have worked out like they did for them, unfortunately. You just hate to see that for all teams, but especially ones that looked like they were knocking on the door for something really special. And the ASU softball team also. I mean, they were like Coach Scott told me. I mean, they were really kind of hitting their stride at the end of the season, and they had some struggles early on a little bit, but they were poised to do some big things in the postseason as well. So hate to see it for them, and kind of the same goes for the ASU, women's and men's track teams. They could have very easily won some national titles individually, and maybe made a push for some team championships as well.
Yeah, most definitely. I was watching Ram Bell softball. I got to do a couple of games for them. For Ram TV, and definitely, they were kind of struggling a little bit, but they were looking like they were finally getting going. They had a really good pitching staff. The hitters were finally getting going. So, yeah, definitely sad not to see how well they could have ended the year. One thing we saw, of course, early looking back to the fall was Ram football. Had a phenomenal first outing under first-time head coach Garrick. I was going to call it Garrick Scott. I know it's
Jeff Gersh.
Jeff Gersh. I don't know why I was thinking we had him a while back. That's probably why. But, Coach Gersh, he did a phenomenal job his first year of kind of taking over the helm for the Ram football team. They came up just a little bit short getting back into that NCAA playoffs. What do we see from the Rams going forward here, and what will be a brand new Lone Star Conference atmosphere without the Tarleton State Texans returning?
Right. I mean, without Tarleton State in the mix, and they gave them they had a very respectable showing against them. They weren't able to pull it off, but I think, now that they've got 1 year under their belt with Coach Gersh, and his coordinators, I think, they're going to make a real strong push for a conference championship. And, if they can make it to the playoffs, maybe they can make some noise in the postseason as well. I think Coach Gersh has, given the program a shot of adrenaline, you might say, and nothing against Coach Wagner. He did a great job too, but it was probably time for a change. And Gersh, a real hands-on guy. He gets real fired up, gets his troops fired up, and and that's contagious. The players seem to love to play for him, and I think the Rams they're only going to continue to improve on what they did this past season. Is my guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a phenomenal one for the Rams. It's going to be interesting to see them go up against Midwestern State and Texas A&M Commerce. But if they can get past those two teams, you can only kind of imagine how far they'll go by the end of the year.
Right. I mean, if they can finish in the top three in the conference, that would be very respectable, obviously. not that they want to settle for that. They want to, swing for the fences and see if they can win a championship. But those teams you talked about, it's not going to be easy getting past them, but they'll welcome those challenges for sure.
Absolutely. Looking a little bit forward at some of the bigger Division One areas, of course, we'll look at the Big 12 Conference. This will be an interesting year. What's your take on the Red Raiders coming into this year? This will be their second year trying to get back. We'll see a brand new quarterback situation going on. So what do we kind of hope to see for Texas Tech?
I think last year was a disappointing season, obviously, for them. Again, I think that's gonna really light a fire under the Red Raiders to try to really make up for that and show what they're really capable of doing this coming season, I should say. It'll be really great for San Angelo and folks in West Texas who have been watching Maverick McIver over the years. If he ends up, being the starting quarterback for him, I mean, he's a great dual threat guy, who just did some unbelievable things at the high school level, and he's just chomping at the bit to take over as the Red Raiders quarterback. And they've had so many great ones, obviously, in recent years. Who's the guy at Kansas City now? Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. And second year under new head coach. It's difficult to come in your first year and do big things, probably, so they were learning to adjust to him, his way of doing things a little bit. But they should be a lot more comfortable with his system. And so I think the Red Raiders will be much improved this year is what I'm thinking.
All right, for my last question, of course, early prediction, who do you probably have as the Big 12 Conference champion this season?
Well, it's probably going to be hard to keep those Oklahoma Sooners out of there, yeah. Texas, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see the Longhorns, if they can be a contender there. Baylor, I'm not exactly sure what they're going to be like this year yet, and some of the other ones, but I just think Oklahoma has got has been the heavyweight, so to speak, of the conference for a while now. So it's going to be kind of hard to knock them off their totem pole, so to speak. But teams like the Longhorns, could be right there in the thick of things too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fun fall coming up here. So I'll go ahead and pass on over back to Shea now.
All right. So, and I think I know we've probably talked about some of these games already, but what are some of the storylines, this spring that we didn't get to see carry out that you were looking forward to seeing that we never got any resolution to?
Right. One of the first teams that was really impacted a lot when the shutdown happened was the San Saba boys basketball team. Now they were going to have to face the number one team in the state in Martin's Mill, but so really feel for them that they weren't able to see what they could do against them. All the pressure would have been on Martin's Mill to try to defend that number one ranking. But I'm getting a low battery deal here. Notice, hopefully it doesn't run out here. But other teams that really were affected a lot, Mason tennis, year in, year out, they win a ton of state championships. And, they weren't able to see what they could do this spring. Wall baseball didn't get a chance to defend its state championship. And the same goes for Robert Lee girls golf. Even though they lost their two top players to graduation, they didn't get a chance to see what they could do. Some other things, just off the top of my head, Central girls and boys golf teams were doing some big things before this happened. Lady Cats sophomore Ryan Honey, she went to state as a freshman last year and had some great rounds. I think she shot a 68 in the fall, if I remember correctly. And so it was looking like there was a strong chance that it wasn't just going to be Honey maybe make it to state, that maybe the Lady Cats could make it as a team. And the boys team was really looking good too. We talked about ASU baseball, softball, and track. I'd also like to mention Central and Lakeview soccer teams. They didn't get to see what they could do in the postseason. So that's too bad for them. And so those are just some off the top of my head. So it really affected so many teams in a big way, and individuals as well, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely, Charles. I mean, so many, and you mentioned some that I hadn't thought of. It's incredible the amount of teams that were affected, and didn't get to finish things off and get that resolution. All right, guys, time for overtime. Gonna ask a few fun questions here, and we'll start off with an easy one. Ford or Chevy?
Chevy.
All right,
good. And Vince?
Although I've owned both.
Yeah, me too. I've owned both. Right now I own a Ford, but
I love. I'm the Chevy fan. Yes,
I really like those new
stuff.
Chevys.
Yeah.
All right.
The Silverados.
For me, I got paper or plastic.
Plastic.
Mm-hmm.
All
right. Do you have a favorite sports movie?
Favorite sports movie? Let me think a minute. If I had to pick one, I'll go with the original Rocky.
All right. Good one.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Great movie, and one that nobody has said yet, so I like that.
Oh, yeah?
one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I like the one with the where he fights Mr. T.
Oh, the third one, yeah.
Is that the third one?
Third one, yeah. I didn't see any after the fourth one, man. I never saw the fifth one with Tommy Morrison, and I heard it wasn't too great.
Yeah, I saw it once, and I don't remember it. I mean, it didn't leave an impression, I guess, because it's been a long time. The fourth one is the one that stands out to me when he fights the Russian Ivan Drago, I think is his name, because I remember actually watching.
Ivan Drago, yeah, I must break you.
Yes, I must break you. Yeah. See, I remember seeing that movie. I mean, it must have been really, really young, because I remember seeing it at the Twin View drive-through, sitting on the back of a flatbed truck.
Oh man, I miss the drive-through drive-in movie days. Those are good times.
I have very few memories of that because I was so young. But man, that would be perfect to have right now, to be able to go to a drive-through and watch a movie, because you can stay away from people, social distance.
Right. You know what? I don't know. They have one in La Mesa. I don't know if they still use it. I'm trying to think of one close by San Angelo. That's the only one I've seen in recent years that I can think of off the top of my head. But yeah, that's something that, the younger people today obviously have never experienced. And maybe in these days of social distancing, that would be perfect right now.
It would. Vince, you ever been to a drive-through movie theater?
And I sure have, and I wish I have. We have one out in Gatesville, which is probably about maybe 45 minutes out from Waco. So hopefully maybe I might give it a chance. But right now, I'm sure right now they're probably the most busiest, and everybody's going over there since nobody can use it. I really want to go. I always hear great stories from my parents about them. So there's still a couple of in Waco, close to the Baylor campus. There's actually a flea market that still uses what was the drive-in. So it's still got the big screen and everything, but other than that, it's sadly kind of all just little shops here and there, but it's still kind of fun to get to see.
I remember, Shea, you were too young to remember this. You at least went to some drive-in movies, you said, but I remember they had this deal where if you tried to sneak your car in, they had these things that would come up, and they would basically just puncture all your tires.
Oh, man.
So it's like, you're not going to get a ticket or anything, but have fun getting out of here with 4 flat tires,
I think I might rather have a ticket.
I remember a lot of stories about guys sneaking, other kids in the trunk of the car to get more people in than actually had legally paid to see the movie, So, of course, I never did anything like that.
Yeah, of course not.
All right, let's see. I think I got one here. Favorite decade of music.
Good one.
Ooh. It'd have to be the 70s or 80s for me. I know I'm showing my age by saying that. And I guess if I had to pick, I'd go with the 80s. So much great music in that decade. It's really hard to compete against the 80s in my mind, and so many different genres of music.
Yeah, for
How
sure.
about you guys?
For me, I would say the 80s are great too, but the 70s, which was pretty much was before my time, but I love, like classic rock from the 70s, Led Zeppelin, ZZ Top, all that. But then also the 90s, because that's kind of, when I first really started remembering and listening to a lot of music. All the grunge stuff, even like the early 90s hip hop stuff I remember listening to a lot back then. So yeah, I mean, I love the 90s and the 70s and the 80s. And as far as I'm concerned, music pretty much died after that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for me,
it's so different. I mean,
for me,
kids don't even, nobody listens to whole albums anymore. They're just,
That's true.
downloading one song or whatever, I mean, especially back in the LP days, you talk about, hey, have you heard, side A of whatever album or side B, and
Yeah.
so it's just changed so much. But you guys are just kids compared to me. So wait till you get, a couple decades from now and you're like thinking, man, you'll hear about these songs you listened to back in your youth. It's like, I can't believe it was that long ago, like for me, I'm a huge Kiss fan from back in the day. I actually saw him play, and I hate to admit, 5 different decades, believe it or not, because I saw him in the 70s,
Wow.
80s, 90s, 2000, and once in 2010. Pretty crazy. Actually got to meet Gene Simmons on the Riverwalk and his wife back in 2010, I think it was, and that was a very memorable experience. And we got a photo with them, and so that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. That reminds me, I remember a story of a friend of mine from years ago, probably 15 years ago at least. They ran into Ted Nugent at HEB in San Angelo, but they didn't know who it was at the time.
Oh, I met Ted Nugent one time too. I
Really?
got backstage at a show in Austin. I think it was 1986. And I remember there was a guy showing some card tricks at the time, and Ted was just standing there, his long hair, and he'd shake his head back with his hair, and all that. And he just seemed like, such an approachable guy. I didn't really talk to him myself or anything, but I did have a buddy in high school who, when Ted came to town, he would hunt on his dad's ranch, right? So, and he's talking about things. One time, I remember he was on KLST TV saying, yeah, I'm going to go out to Lowakey and test their beef. He'd heard about the great steakhouse over there. And so as far as I know, I wouldn't be surprised if he still hunts around this area some. So,
Yeah, he may. And he was one of my dad's favorites. So, and I think we still have some of his actual albums, like his records. So
we'll hang on to them.
pretty
Those will
cool.
be worth
Oh yeah,
something. If they're
for
not
sure.
already, they'll be worth a lot someday. I wish I would have kept all my LPs, but I've still got a pretty sizable collection. But at one point, I probably had about 400 albums or so.
Wow. Yeah, I don't have a record player. It'd be nice to be able to go back and listen to some of those sometime again. But I still have all of my CDs, even though I listen to all my music on Google Play Music now. But I have them all on a shelf, all of my CDs, and I've actually ripped them all. So most of the music I listen to, or a lot of it, is actually from the discs at least. So, yeah.
I hear
Vince.
you. And I've heard a lot of people say that, CDs over time, they like, they're not going to work right or whatever. Well, after like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that to be the case myself. I mean, I think if you take care of them, you're not
Mhm.
throwing them on the floorboard and stepping on them all the time or something. I think, they seem to stand the test of time pretty well. So I've got a whole bunch of CDs myself. And as far as I know, they're all still playing well.
Yeah, mine too, I think. Vince, favorite decade?
Yeah, I mean, I got to be with y'all guys. 80s. My dad raised me on it, so I fell in love with it. I think I listened to 100.1 when I was over in San Angelo. Here in Waco, we have our Oldies 95 over here. So, I mean, 80s is my favorite area. I think I was born in 92, so I probably heard a few 90s songs, so 90s a little bit there. But yeah, 80s, you can't go wrong with any genre in that. I mean, I can listen to just about everything from the 80s, and I get weird looks from more of my younger crowd saying, "What are you listening to?" But I'm like, man, you can't go wrong with the 80s. I have that any day over what, is currently playing on the radio right now.
Well, kind of to piggyback off that, as you guys know, anytime you go to high school football games or college games, when they're playing, playing music, before the games start, what are they typically playing? Almost always it's stuff from the 80s. I mean, if you notice that, I'm like, people joke like, hey, that was a song from back in your day, wasn't it? Yeah, and apparently people still like it. The bands play music from Ozzy Osbourne or what have you, so that's pretty cool.
Good music stands the test of time.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, so
Where
do you
would
have...
we be without sports and music? I don't know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know what I would do without either one of those. That'd be tough. Do you have, like, something when you're not working, any kind of a favorite hobby or thing you like to do in your spare time?
Music is a big part of it. I love listening to a lot of music. I do have some guitars myself. I can't say that I actually play them very well. I make some noise with them, you might say, but I need to put more time in there. It's kind of hard to seem to find the time to practice like I'd like to. But, hanging out with the dogs. The thing I guess I've been into the most lately is I just really enjoy cooking a whole lot, and during these times, especially I've been cooking way more than I normally would. So I love putting something on the grill. I don't get too fancy with things, but I can do pretty good steaks, burgers, grilled chicken, and what have you.
Awesome.
What about you guys?
I wish I could cook. Yeah. I think the closest I can come to is putting like the weenies in the you're boiling them on the stove. That's probably as close as I can get. But yeah, I mean, for me, when it comes to like a hobby, I think it's sports still all in general. I mean, just back in the day, growing up here in Waco, school was extremely stressful. So I think I was in 2008. My cousin, she worked for the Waco ISD area, and at that time they were giving away season tickets, or for cheaper season tickets to Baylor football. So my Saturdays, that was my favorite area to go, was to Floyd Casey Stadium to watch the Bears play. And boy, from there on, I just completely grew on sports, and that became my hobby. So I'm very happy to work in sports. So that's kind of a combination of both work and hobby for me. So that's kind of my area a little bit.
My wife, she watched probably as much Netflix stuff as anyone I know of. And we got roped into watching, the Tiger King. There was such a buzz about it recently. And we saw it, and, it had its moments and all, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. But after it was over, like, okay, that's it. Like, I'm like, why is this getting so much attention? I mean, it's just, everyone was talking about Tiger King. Is it just me? Have you guys seen it, or?
I've seen it, yeah. Oh. It's, I mean, it's insane. I guess that's why it got so much attention. But yeah, it's not that great. I mean, even the way it was kind of put together and structured wasn't that great, because it was like not chronological. It was jumping around everywhere, so it was kind of hard. I was kind of wondering when certain things were happening in relation to other things, and it was just kind of jumbled all together.
Like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, yeah, I don't think that's really going to fit for me, the way he's looking. And then when I heard Tigers were involved, I was like, yeah, this ain't going to end very well at all. No. I can already tell that from a long time.
Yeah, it's really not fun to watch if you like animals. I know that. Because, I mean, it's a bunch of tigers in captivity.
Yeah.
Right. And, of course, the big thing that's going on now is, of course, The Last Dance, Michael Jordan and the Bulls documentary. Shea, you and I were talking earlier. We've been recording them, and we're behind. We got to catch up on things, but I've got them all on the DVR. I just haven't seen them all yet. But you guys are too young to have seen those teams back when they played. No. But for me, it's so cool reliving those memories. The NBA these days doesn't have a character like a Dennis Rodman, or teams like the Bad Boys from Detroit Pistons back in the day, and that sort of thing. So it was just a special era, officiating wise. They let them get away with a lot more. It was a lot more physical play, obviously back then. Um, teams like the Golden State Warriors. Well, before this past season, when they were really still the Golden State Warriors, it would have been interesting to see how they would have done against some of these teams from another era, like the Lakers, the Bulls, or the Pistons. Even, I guarantee, Bill Lambert would have gotten in their heads a little bit, if they had played those guys in the finals. But I guess one of the things that I have enjoyed the most during this pandemic that we're all dealing with is obviously without the live games going on, they're rebroadcasting so many of these great sports games and so forth from the past, and so that's been really cool to see all that again. And of course, with the late great Kobe Bryant, they've showed numerous games that he played in, including his last one, and it's still just hard to believe that I'm a big Lakers fan. It's still hard to believe that Kobe's gone, and that was something. Of course, right before the pandemic, that hit, and that really kind of brought everyone together. It seemed like people were, everyone was seemed to be affected by that in one way or another. Because everyone knew about Kobe Bryant. I mean, he was kind of the Michael Jordan of his era, and so it's been great to see that stuff again, but I know I'm chomping at the bit, as you guys are too, to see some live sports though.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I guess I'm probably older than you think because I vividly remember the 90s Bulls teams and the even a little bit the bad boys teams from the Pistons. And I think, you're talking about how those kind of teams would do against today's teams. Back then it was really a contact sport. I think they would kind of pound these teams into submission that they have nowadays. I mean, there'd be some intimidation going on.
Exactly. Yeah. It would be interesting to see how they would deal with that,
Mm-hmm. All right. Obvious question here. Jordan or LeBron?
Oh man, I've been on the fence about that one in my head, but I think, I don't know, maybe just seeing this stuff again recently with Jordan has kind of reminded me, like, I would say LeBron, but I think considering what all went on during Jordan's career and so forth, in addition to what a great player he was, I got to go with MJ on that one.
Yeah, I'm with you there for sure. For me, it's Jordan's the best ever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think we've ever seen a player at LeBron's size that can do the kind of things he can do, such a physical presence. I mean, was he 6'8", 260 or whatever? Yeah. How would these teams from back in the day, how would they have done against him, And, later on he became, in recent years, he's become such a good shooter from outside and stuff. So, I said Michael Jordan, but at the same time, I don't think we've ever seen a player quite like LeBron James either.
Definitely a unique athlete in basketball, that's for sure, with his size and athleticism combination. Got any more, Vince?
All right, probably for my last one, probably a very easy Texan answer. Whataburger or what's the other one called? In-N-Out?
Yeah.
I got to go with Whataburger, man. I have not been impressed. Some people are going to kill me for saying this. I heard they're better in California. I've never had In-N-Out in California. I've only been there one time. But to me, it's the old tried and true Whataburger, man. It must be a Texas thing or something. Because, I actually had In-N-Out for the first time, I want to say in like 2014, where we were at State Gymnastics outside of Houston. And a photographer and I, neither one of us had it, and I was going to go get us something to eat while he was working on photos. I said, "Hey, you want to grab In-N-Out?" He goes, "Yeah, let's see what they're like." It's like we ate them, or like looking at each other like befuddled, like I don't know what the big deal is. I mean, it's a decent burger and all, but I'll go with Whataburger, man. I'll even put my own my own burgers up against In-N-Out. I haven't got them out on the market yet, but anyway.
Yeah, I think any homemade burger is going to beat either of those, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Best burger in San Angelo, where would you say?
Ooh, okay. Let me think about that. It might be, I'm not sure of a single place, but it seems like Mexican food restaurants always have really good burgers. Like if you go there and you're not in the mood for a Mexican food and you just get a burger, they're always really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, they make them on the grill there where they're making all the Mexican food anyway. Right. So it's like, I think that adds something to it and just, gives it kind of a unique flavor. But, yeah, they don't ever mail it in on their burgers. Yeah. It may be it's a Mexican food restaurant, but, yeah, I have never gotten a burger at one of those establishments that's not really good. To me, Texas Steak Express is pretty hard to beat too,
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten those several times and they're good. And yeah, In-N-Out, I went once maybe 10 years ago in Dallas, like probably not long after they first opened. And for fast food, I thought it was pretty good, but nothing special.
Spectacular, yeah.
And I guess, Vince, you're Whataburger all the way, I'm assuming.
Yeah, Whataburger. I'm a big fan of Whataburger. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it either. It's just like you said, it's, especially when you think of size, portion, it doesn't come anywhere close to Whataburger.
Breakfast taco in San Angelo. Who would you go with there?
Okay, that's tough. Maybe Las Panchitas, I think it is, on North Chadbourn. Those are good. Of course, I like Corner Stop too.
Right.
Hidalgo, or not Hidalgo's. I mean, I'm sure they're good too. I haven't had their breakfast at Hidalgo's, but what's the other place I'm thinking of? Julio's. Those are pretty good.
Diego's, maybe.
And I was gonna say Diego's also are pretty good. Really, everywhere, any burrito or taco place you go to, they're in San Angelo. That's just like a little local place. They're all gonna be good, but Panchitas is good, and one that kind of maybe gets overlooked a lot.
Right, and Rosa's, they just started doing breakfast food, I want to say about a year ago maybe, and I know it's a chain and all, but yeah, if you haven't tried Rosa's breakfast fare, it's pretty awesome.
I haven't tried their breakfast yet, but I do love their beef fajitas.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with
I haven't been brave enough to try the Taco Bell breakfast yet, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm going to avoid that. No breakfast crunch wraps for me.
No.
I hope you guys aren't sponsored by Taco Bell after I say that.
No. Well, what about wings, though? I mean, our sponsor is Wingstop, and in my opinion, I mean, they do have the best wings in San Angelo that I've had. The one on Knickerbocker.
They do, yeah, and you get a lot more bang for your buck, it seems like, with theirs too,
For sure.
So Wild Wings is good, but yeah, Wingstop, I definitely might have to give them the edge there myself.
All right, Charles, if you had to choose one to eat for the rest of your life, you could only choose one, would it be barbecue or Mexican food?
I think I would get burned out on barbecue a little sooner than I would on Mexican food. I could eat Mexican food every day of my life.
Okay.
Awesome.
I could almost do that with barbecue, though.
Yeah, the only other person who said Mexican food, I've asked this every week, was Josh Torres last week, the Lakeview soccer player. He chose Mexican food. And for me, it's kind of a toss-up. I mean, I don't. This is my show, so I don't have to answer that question if I don't want to. So I'm not going to answer it. I can't do it.
You pulled that one out.
Well, make Vince answer it then.
Oh yeah, for me it's barbecue. I love barbecue. I can't live without it. I loved it in San Angelo. My favorite place to go to is Pack Saddle. There's some other. I think the Pit's another great one, and then one gentleman I worked with at Ram TV, Russell Howard, makes some of the absolute best barbecue around. So I mean, I love barbecue. Here in Waco, we have some great barbecue places. So I cannot go out without any barbecue.
Yeah,
one funny little story. Oh, go ahead, Shea.
I was just going to say real quick, he mentioned Russ Howard. I have seen some of his posts on Facebook about his barbecue stuff, so it must be pretty good.
It's a pro. It's a legend. I mean, you haven't lived till you had barbecue.
Many years ago, I was eating barbecue in Austin at this place called Sam's Barbecue. It's off the beaten track a little bit. A lot of people don't know about it. But I'd heard about it because it was Stevie Ray Vaughan's favorite barbecue place. So I'm like, oh, I got to check that out. And it was the real deal. I remember going in there and seeing a sign that they open at 9 in the morning. And I asked the lady, I said, what do y'all sell at 9 in the morning? She kind of looks at me like, are you dumb or something? She said, barbecue. So I'm like, yeah, barbecue for breakfast, right?
Heck yeah. Why not? And you can always just put the meat in a tortilla, have a brisket burrito, brisket taco.
Right.
All right. Last question, and this is the one that the last question I always ask every week. Creamy or crunchy peanut butter?
I eat creamy more often than crunchy, only because the wife doesn't like the crunchy kind. But really, if I had to make a choice and only have one, I like the crunchy, to be honest.
Yes. Ooh. Get a round of applause for that one. I've been asking this every week, and other than myself, you're the first person who said crunchy. So welcome to Team
Awesome.
Crunchy. Yeah. I said I was going to keep asking. I said I was going to keep asking until somebody else said crunchy besides me, and we finally got it.
I'll be looking for my Team Crunchy t-shirt in the mail then.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to get some printed up. People are going to wonder what in the world we're talking about, but we'll know.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Charles. Really appreciate you coming on. It was a lot of fun. You gave us a ton of great information, and we got to learn a little bit about you in overtime, too, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed being on here, guys. Sorry I was fumbling for my thoughts a lot of times there, but at my age, that's to be expected.
Well, I mean, I'm the same way, and you did great. Lots of great information, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon.
Sounds great, guys. I appreciate it. Have a great week.
You too. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, Charles.
Take care, Vince. Take care, Shea.
Take care.
Yeah.
All right, Vince. Another good show in the books.
Yeah, man. Episode 6 in the books. A fantastic episode. You already gave us our lineup for what we're going to be expecting next week with the Central Gymnastics team head coach and a few players coming to join us. They're going to be fun to talk to. They'll be interesting to hear what they've got to say. So, yeah, man, it's been a fantastic 6 episodes. So we'll keep on trucking on here, man. Can't wait to join you here again. Hopefully one of these days I'll be able to finally head on back out to San Angelo to see how everything's going. But for now, I'll just keep enjoying the Concho Valley here from beautiful Central Texas.
Yes, sir. We'll be glad to have you back in San Angelo. Hopefully it doesn't take too much longer till things get back to normal and we can all, do what we want to do, watch live sports, cover live sports. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I'm really excited about next week. So yeah, tune in next week, everybody, because we are going to have, we're going to be talking Central Lady Cat Gymnastics with Coach Tony Walker, and we're going to have some of his players on, some of his gymnasts. So we're looking forward to that. And also just want to thank our sponsor, Wingstop, again. You can order wings from them at the Wingstop on Knickerbocker Road in San Angelo at 325-227-6777, wingstop.com, or through the Wingstop app. And also follow us here on social media at Concho Sports. We'd really appreciate that. We also do have a Roku app and an Amazon Fire TV app. So you can, if you have one of those, you can download our app and watch it on your TV. And I just want to thank everybody for watching, and we'll see you next week.